your attention, please. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome.
Colicchie. You see, everybody got a story to tell. Well, here's mine. My pain's deep, I've been through hell. I managed to survive, so I got a story to tell. Listen, I stand victorious, make the sign of the cross. Look, I'm here to be the voice for every friend I've ever lost. I'm feeling like I'm drowned in my surroundings. I'm searching for that acceptance, I haven't found it. I'm having trouble breathing from everything that is happening. I'll go without support before I ever have to ask again.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Blaklist Podcast. If you're tuning in with us for the first time today, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our team. My name is Jared Blaine. This is the lovely Brianna Elizabeth. And last but not least, we got Swag coming out of Detroit. And today's guest is an OG in the recovery community. He is just a very inspirational hip-hop artist. He's got close to 80,000, Spotify listeners every month. He has his number one song, Drug Addiction, that has over 37 million views on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, Colicchie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
This is awesome.
I know Swag was super excited for this. I mean, we all are, but I know he was super excited for this one. So
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't expect to set this up as quick as we did. Because normally when I reach out to people, I try like every means of whether it's social media or email. And I think at the time I didn't have your email. I just had like your Facebook. And of course, with the amount of people on your Facebook, you probably don't ever get to see your messages.
Yeah, it's a little difficult, but
yeah. So I sent it a couple times, and then I found your email. I was like, yeah, let me reach out. So I'm very, very grateful for this, man.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Yeah, man. For myself, man, I just gotta say, bro, this is an honor. Like, your music has helped me in my 39 months of sobriety. I found you. Somebody sent it to me well over 3 years ago, and I started listening. And to have you on tonight, man, is a very big deal. To finally get you on here on the platform, but also hear your story personally and talk to you personally, man, and get to know who you are as a person from your point of view. You know what I mean? So, man, we're stoked, bro.
No, yeah, and I really do appreciate it. And it's crazy when I first started making music. It was always just about me. Like, I wanted to share my story because I felt like if I divulged everything in my life and told all my secrets and shared in detail exactly what my life was like and all the stuff that I've been through, that it would have gave me a sense of comfort, and it did. And it gave me a sense of freedom. Basically what I was learning in recovery, I was carrying into my music. And, for years I would just write and just tell my story, regardless of how it made me look, regardless of how embarrassing it was or anything like that. And, fast forward, 10, 11 years later. And then, I make a song that, that people could relate and identify with, and then I have like this entire catalog of music that I've been doing for the last 16, 17 years, and people telling me that they can relate to my music and that it's helped them. I mean, that alone has been such a huge blessing, in and of itself, to be honest.
Yeah, no, you definitely touch it. The way I look at it, man, is honestly everybody in the recovery community knows who you are. And and that right there just goes to show like you're reaching people, and your story and your testimony is definitely making an impact, because I don't think there's one person that I've talked to that doesn't know at least of who you are.
Yeah. And that's incredible, because I truly am just that that drug addict that tried to get clean on his mother's couch, a million times and could just never get it. And I don't know, that's just always been my goal, like to let people know that regardless of how much self-doubt that you may have as far as like even getting that one day clean, that it really is, attainable for absolutely everybody. Because for years, I thought that I was going to die this way. I thought that I was different from others because I would see people get clean and I would see people have productive lives and get careers and buy houses and all that. And, and even though I was, younger than I am now, I still didn't think that it was possible for me. And it wasn't really until I got around some solid people that guided me, in this process and guided me, in the right direction, then I was able to. And not only that, it was just very important that I really just gave myself a chance and honestly applied like unconditional surrender in all areas of my life, and just kept it moving regardless of how I felt. And then after I did that, I don't know, the possibilities truly were endless.
Did you when you made drug addiction, was it something that you thought would ever blow up as much as it has?
No, I mean, not honestly, not really. I mean, I figured it would do good. I mean, I didn't really know what my terms of good was then, but I don't know. I heard some random freestyle about this. I forget what artist it was, but he was just talking about like how he was in and out of jail and how he was selling drugs, and it was just a really detailed story. And my music has always been very detailed, but I was like, you know what, I should make something like that, except about my own life. And that's exactly, what I did. And I mean, I knew the people that I knew would relate. And when I say the people that I knew, I just meant like, in my city, I knew that some people would be able to gravitate towards it, but I never knew or never thought in a million years that it would reach so many people. To this day, it is still beyond surreal to me as far as how many people has heard my music. I mean, I can't even believe it a lot of days because I don't know, this is something that I love and I'm just so passionate about. And the fact that I was able and that I'm able to get my message out to those that want to hear it, is just incredible.
I think that's the most amazing part about people sharing their stories, and the most powerful part is allowing others to know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
They're not alone in their struggles. Some of us don't try and get sober once. Sometimes it takes 5, 10, 15, 20 times for us to get it right. But when we get it right, we get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always been my goal, honestly, since day one. I can look back at like 2007, like when I was writing a song called Paradise, and it's about like shooting dope or whatever. And honestly, like at that time, like people didn't talk about doing drugs. People talked about selling drugs. And I remember my engineer was like, aren't you like worried, or like, don't you like, I forget exactly how he placed it, but he basically was saying like, don't you care what others think about you? And, and it goes back to what I said in the beginning about how I just felt free just by doing that and just by sharing my story. It's always been like, if I tell you everything about me, then you would never have any ammunition to basically come back at me, and I just believe that like secrets die in the light of exposure. So I felt that if I was as transparent as possible, that I was never basically going to go to bed with them racing thoughts about, certain things that I did. And, just a clear conscience in so many words. And, and even to this day, that's what I try to do.
The coolest thing about your music, Colicchie, is what you just said, man, because I get the guys that coming out of detox at the center, so they're either on like day 2 to day 7 or day 10, right? Mm-hmm. So when they listen to your music and then they'll come to me and be like, Swag, man, like he's really talking about shooting dope and this and that, so he's like, so it's okay to talk about this stuff. And I said, exactly. You know what I mean? He puts his story through his music so that you guys will understand that it's okay. You got to talk about those deep, dark secrets in your life, man, to say, hey, man, I can do better. And then when I'm like, well, come listen to this song. Just be quiet, sit here and listen. And then when they get done, man, a lot of them got tears. They're like, wow, man, like he who is that? And I'm like, man, this is one of the guys that's helped me, understand that it's okay to come open and be honest about myself and what I used to do in my life. Even though it was cocaine abuse, it's still, you're still allowed to release what you got, your inner demons, through your music. And it gives them all such hope, man. And it's just the way you just explained it is super cool. How you just said that it went from selling dope, but hey, I wasn't so much selling. I was selling, but then at the point, man, it was like, hey, I was talking about just shooting the dope or doing the dope, and it gives these guys, it gives them validation at the beginning because that's what we're all looking for. Is how can I do this?
It is too, and and I share about this all the time, but I don't suggest that everybody, everybody doesn't have to on a group level, throw everything that they've ever done, on the internet, but it is important for us, to get with at least somebody, just anybody, somebody that we trust, somebody that we admire, and tell them everything, there's so many of us. I mean, I only speak for myself, but like, I can just earlier on, like trying to like get clean. It was just always, there was just certain things that like, I didn't want to say, or, the guilt, shame, and the remorse and the regret. Like, I would get clean, but I would have trouble staying clean because the haunting past, that I had. And that's why it's so vital to get with somebody that, I can, just basically tell all that stuff too. So, the weight is off of my shoulders, and they can guide me on how to recover from it, and pretty much.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So cool, bro.
So you said that, you tried getting clean quite a few times on your mom's couch. How was your childhood growing up?
I mean, I actually had like a pretty decent childhood, for the most part. For people that know my story, like, my mother was an alcoholic, my father was a heroin addict, my sister was a heroin addict. But when I was one, my mom came home one day and my father was knotted off on the couch with a needle sticking out of his arm. And she basically grabbed me and then grabbed my sister out of the crib, and we left that day and never looked back. And to this day, I've never met my father. I don't even think my mother even knows if he's alive or dead or whatever. But from that day forward, my mother ended up getting sober, and she had 16 years sober, like while I was growing up. So like I was never around drugs or alcohol. I was never around violence. I was never around like a dysfunctional household. Looking back now, I could say, well, this was dysfunctional, this and that. But trust me, I had it way better than the majority of people, and I had loving grandparents down the street that raised me, and with morals, values, integrity. I knew right from wrong and all that, but I don't know. I always still felt different. I don't know if it's because I was a drug addict or just because I'm a human being, but I just felt different. Like even when I was around my friends, and I found drugs, in a remotely early age, like 12, 13, I guess. In my progression, they talk about like the disease of addiction. My progression was tremendously quick. And it was, I started off with the weed at the age of, 12, 13. And I mean, shortly after was already doing oxys. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I was strung out on heroin and every single drug under the sun, in that time frame. And that's what I used to cope with, when I was younger. That was my coping mechanism because of how much I hated myself, pretty much.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but now as an adult and where you're at in life, have you ever had that desire to find your father?
I honestly haven't. I don't know why. Like even through step work that I've done, it's just never has been. I don't even like think about it. It's so crazy. I don't. And and I share about this a lot too. But like my biggest fear was always to be a father, and I don't know if it like stems from like me growing up without one or whatever you want to say, but I was just always so fearful to be responsible for another human being. And, whenever my daughter was born, like my biggest fear turned into my biggest blessing. And it completely just, changed my entire life. And, you know, but I honestly have never, ever really even like thought about it. Even when I think about like growing up, like even playing sports and stuff like that. And like, I can't even really remember like looking at other kids with their dads wishing like, oh, I wish I had that. You know, it just wasn't something I never really thought of.
I mean, I think it definitely does stem from like it being you were scared to be a father. Cause like I was the same way. I grew up without my dad. I didn't meet my father till I was 32 years old and I'm 34. But I got 3 kids now, but I remember I was terrified to become a parent just because I didn't have that male influence in my life and whatnot. So, and like you said, at the end of the day, they were the greatest blessings ever, and I wouldn't change that in a heartbeat. Yeah. But I do believe, it does. That does stem from that.
And I think it's better that he was. I don't want to say completely ripped from my life, but like, I don't know. Like, I would rather have that than have him in and out of my life. Like, a couple months here and then go on a 2-year run and then a couple months here. I just feel like just ripping the Band-Aid off completely real fast was just less damaging in so many words than, having him constantly like in and out of my life. And, so I think my mother did the best that she could at that time. And, I mean, even if I was to meet him today, I mean, there's nothing for me to even really say, I don't really, there's nothing like, there's no resentment. Like, I get it. I understand, I know what it's like to like be caught up and not want to either want to quit or 2, don't know how to quit and can't stay quit. I mean, for all I know, he's, doing well and not using and has another family, but it's irrelevant. I mean, that ship has sailed, and it is what it is.
It shaped you into who you are today.
Absolutely,
man, for real.
Yeah, I think we go through. I think we go through those things, and as much as it may seem horrible in the moment, like it molds us into the person we are today, whether it's good or bad.
Yep.
So you said by high school you were full blown heroin addict.
I was. I mean, at that time, I mean, Oxycontin was huge. And, I started off with the Oxys, and then like halfway through my senior year, I was leaving after lunch every single day. And I was never in denial. My mother told me when I was real young, when I was like 15, she's like, you're more than likely going to have a problem with drugs and alcohol because of your father and I. So I never was like, blindsided. I knew I was different. I knew when I was hanging out with my friends and I was on, beer number 4 and they were on their first beer, like I knew that something inside of me, I was just different. And, and I could not go to school. I couldn't do anything without drugs. I mean, even when I look back, but in high school, addiction was quote unquote somewhat manageable. Like I would have like a couple weeks where I went real hard, and then a couple weeks for like, I would just use like when I could, and whenever I had money or whatever you want to say. And but I seriously think I drank every single day of my life in high school. It's not funny. I bet every single day. And I graduated with probably, straight D's. And I wasn't allowed to go to commencements. I was suspended like 80 days my senior year. I got kicked out of homecoming, kicked out of prom. And I wasn't a disrespectful kid. I just could not, like I said, I couldn't do anything without drugs. So I just always got in trouble for drugs, but yeah, the summer right after I graduated high school is when addiction was full blown, full throttle, and everything changed. Everything.
How long did that addiction last?
I mean, honestly, probably like I would say give or take like 6 years. So my vicious cycle was, I was constantly in and out of rehabs and in jail, small jail stints, detox, psych wards, and it was just, this is all I did. And then I would get out and I would just repeat the same exact mistakes. And I just did this constantly. And truly, when I was 19 years old, I was completely broken from drugs already. And I was just a shatter. I was just this shell of a human being. And honest, I wanted to stop and stay stopped. And I had all these times where I would go to treatment, and I would be in there for 45 days, and I would feel amazing, and I share about this a lot because it is very, like pivotal in my life. But like I would go to treatment, I'd be in there for like 45 days, and I would feel so good, and it'd be like, I'm done. This is so great. I can't believe that I feel this good. And this is amazing. But the second that I would get released, like, out of a like quote unquote like safe environment, I got that gut feeling in my stomach, and it's really because I didn't know exactly like what I was up against. I didn't really understand about the disease of addiction and how it was about obsession, compulsion, denial, spiritual void. I truly thought if I just put the drugs down that everything was going to be okay. I didn't know about all these other aspects of it. I didn't know about character defects. I didn't know about like the self-doubt and the self-hatred and the pessimism and everything, and the behaviors and the attitudes. Like I didn't know about all this other stuff. And I figured if I just left the drugs alone that I would be okay. And it was just never that. So I would always get released, from these treatment centers and stuff like that. And then instead of following through with my aftercare with the suggestions that they provided, I would instantly like almost get dope sick the second that I was released. You know what I mean? Because it was either I had to like, face my fears and go forward in life without drugs or alcohol, or I had to run back to the familiar ways of my addiction. And the easiest thing for me to always do is to just run back to what I already knew. And I did that time and time again. And it's just, like I said, I wanted to stay stopped. I guess I kind of knew how, but I just didn't exactly have the courage to.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super, man.
I just waiting to see if his daughter was going to ask him a question. Or if he needed something.
Ask yours.
I'm gonna wait. So you said when you were 15, your mom had that conversation with you. Do you think she was aware of what you were doing?
Yeah, she was, because she came home and I was thrown up over the off the front porch. So I mean, she at least knew that. I remember this is like a guess. Whenever I say all this stuff, it's like a guess. But I was probably like 16, and I remember my sister was 20, and she was like, we need to tell mommy that we're doing these pills because our life's out of control. And at that time, her and I were both like real heavy in Oxycontin. So we did. I mean, so I was even at 16 telling her that like, hey, I'm strung out on these pills and I can't stop. And I still vividly remember the conversation that we had like in her living room, and she was in tears, and she's like, I know how you feel. Like, I wish I could just take this all from you. But I was very open, about my addiction with my mother, since a young age, and even through all my relapses too. Like I never really tried to hide it. I would just be like, yeah, I relapsed, and I would just let her like know where I was at pretty much.
That's awesome that you guys had that open line of communication too, and you had her to lean on, and she was probably a lot more understanding than other parents probably would have been.
Yeah,
dealing with her own history as well.
Yeah, and my sister, like I said, I used with my sister for a long time, and she fortunately, so she has 20 years now, so she was like the tangible evidence in my life that recovery was possible, because all these other people that I've seen, get and change their lives around, I didn't really know them before. I didn't know them prior. I knew her whenever she used to run with me, and she used to be just as bad, if not worse than I was. And then to see her get to a point in her life where, she would have a vehicle and cash and have all this stuff and still not want to go get high. That was something that I could not comprehend in my own mind. And to see that she was able to do that, I was like, okay, well then maybe I can do that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like following up with what Brianna is saying about having that open line of communication and understanding. I guess it would be the same for me. Like, I would never wish my children to go through what we went through, but if they did come to me, I would completely understand. I guess my mentality would be a whole lot different than somebody who hasn't done anything. So I think, I don't know. I think maybe it helped you along the way because you knew that you were able to have that communication with her and not feel, I mean, you're still going to feel ashamed as a person, but I don't know. I just, maybe it felt a little bit, did it feel good inside just to know that you had that open line of communication, that you didn't have to hide it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still like did my share of hiding. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just because it was crazy because even like, so when I graduated, like around the time I graduated, my mother relapsed. So, when I was, when I was like 18 to, like I said, 23, I talk about it in my music, but I'm not joking. Like when I tell you that my residence really was a shooting gallery, it was. And, I constantly had people at my house, living at my house, friends of mine, and I always had the constables at my house for someone. I always had the ambulance at my house because somebody was overdosing. The cops really did, every single one of them know my first name. I'm still, where I live now is the same borough. I don't know any of the cops now. They're all different. But I live in the same borough. I bought a house, in Green Tree, in the same area. My mother lives like 3 or 4 miles that way. My house, it was just a horror. Like my house was filthy. Like we weren't even taking care of the dog. Like it was just disgusting carpets. It was absolutely just like unfathomable, like just like unlivable conditions. And, my mother would just wake up and she would just drink and she would just black out and then she would sleep for 18 hours. And, and this is just how we lived for years. And it just, I don't know, it just blows my mind. Like I know that life is still possible for me. I'm always susceptible to use. I never get that twisted, but it truly does seem like another lifetime ago.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's a good mentality for us to have is we can be honest as human beings. We can't sit here and say that we're never going to use ever again. That could change in, tomorrow. But all we can say is hope. We can only hope and work on it one day at a time. But nobody can sit there and just be like, I'm going to be sober for 20 years. It just doesn't happen.
It is. It's and we were just talking about this last night too. Where like this has nothing to do with like how much time I have. Like I'm serious. You could have 30 years and still get caught up in the grips of addiction. The grips of addiction without the chemical. And a good friend of mine, who had over a decade clean, like just even a couple weeks ago, called me and told me that that he used, you know what I mean? And I know he has like a lot of stuff going on in his life, but like directly after that conversation, I called my fiance and I was like, look, like if you ever see me like acting out on resentment, or like if you see my attitude change, or if you like don't hesitate to put me in my place, because I'm telling you, for someone like me, like it all starts with my attitude. We get the F-its and we get the I don't care and this and that. I've seen it unravel in front of my eyes, like, prior. And like, fortunately I've been able to catch myself, but it's all the stuff leading up to the chemical, it's the behaviors, it's the thinking, it's the negative thinking, it's the self-hatred, it's the self-doubt. It's all that. That's all in the beginning. And then it always puts me in a position where I believe that using or drinking or something is a liable or a good solution to what I'm going through, in my current, life. But I have to be cautious of every decision that I make. And, now I have, so much more at stake. Before I didn't care. I would relapse and destroy my life at the drop of a hat just because I didn't like how I felt. But now I'm in a position where it really just, life isn't about whether I feel good or bad or whatever, and most days it's not about what I think or feel. It's about what I do. I'm telling you, there's so many times where like I just will go through the motions and just do these actions just so I don't, return to the life that I once lived.
I think we all know like a lot for ourselves. Do you have advice for other people if they start noticing? Because like you said, it's those behaviors are always there before a relapse. Do you have any advice for other people that are noticing those, and a friend, like how to handle that?
Just to be honest with yourself. And that's so much easier said than done. You know what I mean? Because any of us can get caught up still, even in that, being blinded to certain things that we do. But I would say, yeah, to just try is like be as honest as possible with yourself. Like, even if you're doing something that's, that's maybe not the healthiest thing, but you're saying, oh, I'm doing it because of this, and trying to justify it and trying to do all that. Really, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? There has to be an underlying reason, that you are acting out, that's not good for you.
Yeah.
The cool thing, like you said earlier, Colicchie, was like you would do 45 days in rehab, right? And then, like I noticed with the guys here, they do anywhere from 14 to 50, 60 days. For when you got out, like on your 45th day, and like you said, you would walk out of rehab. Did you ever have a plan to say, hey, man, I'm going to stick to this plan or stick to what you learned? Or is it just like you said, when you walked out of that door, you kind of knew, boom, you got that sick feeling that, hey, I'm outside these doors. The real world just hit me. And the only thing you knew was back then is to fill this void or this sense of reality was to go back and use?
Yes, I think it was a mixture of both, because a lot of, like, when I say that stuff, like, I was still, I don't want to say like young, remotely young, but I was younger, and but no, I never had a plan. They always, they would always set me up with, some type of aftercare, whether it was outpatient or something like that, and I never really like followed through. But it was just, I would get that obsession, and instead of utilizing what I learned as far as like, and once again, this is just me, and this is just how I got and stay clean. But like, instead of like going to a meeting or calling somebody, or like, building a support group, or even reading literature, or just utilizing anything that I was taught, I would just always go use. So whenever I do speak at a treatment center now, that's like the one thing that I put the most emphasis on, because it just, if I don't have a plan, then I plan to fail. And I really believe that. And my first day outside of treatment is tremendously crucial. I have to know exactly what I'm doing, exactly who I'm going to be hanging out with, if I'm going to a meeting, where am I going? Am I going to be around good people? This and that, if I hit any like bumps in the road, who am I going to call? Like all of that stuff, because, it's going to happen regardless. The first day is more than likely going to be tough. So I have to have some type of plan set up where I am not just so wishy-washy, and I'm not so like just unsure of my decisions once I leave the door.
See, what's cool is what you're saying is the plan's got to truly go in depth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, your plan is just not, hey, man, I'm going to get out. I got to stay sober, man. But what you just said is like, you need to be prepared. So if a roadblock does come in front of you, what is my plan for that roadblock?
Yeah.
Or what is my plan for this? Like, it's an in-depth conversation you need to have, because that's all we talk about at our center, man, is having a plan. But I like the way you just said that is, man, you got to have a plan for every avenue that comes in front of you. Every aspect, from good or bad. Like, who am I going to call? What am I going to do? If this happens, oh, man, that's super cool how you explained it, because that's really an in-depth conversation that I can have with these guys about having more of an in-depth plan to go out, because we all plan on staying sober, but it ain't that easy, boy.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't easy at all.
Yeah, and like I said, like, and that was pretty much like when I was younger, and but throughout the course of the last like I don't even know how long, but like, I've had numerous, like I've had a year clean, 3.5 years clean, 2.5 years clean, a year clean, and now I have 8 years clean. And even when I had multiple years clean at one time, it just not that I was looking for excuses, but I always used, because of like the end of a relationship, and I would always encounter these new levels and these new levels of depression, or whatever you want to say. And that's what I was saying earlier about how it's really not that important exactly on like how I feel in those days, that it's about what I do. Because I look back, like if I would have just held on just, one more day, or just, talked about it just one more day, or whatever, then maybe I wanted to use. But, I don't know. I really do believe that I went through all of that so I could get the understanding, and the foundation that I have today. And I don't know, today my foundation is pretty strong. And like I said, if it wasn't for all them times that I fell prior, maybe I wouldn't be where I am today.
Wow, that's amazing, because a lot of times we go through those, because a lot of guys will come in just like you said and have a year or 2 years and 3 years. And I tell them that your foundation was built in beach sand, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to have that solid foundation. And the thing about it, just like you or myself, when I would fall and I would get clean, I would fall, is that you always have the knowledge before you fall. So you never lose the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of what you learned before, of those 2.5 or 3 years sober. You still have the knowledge. The only thing that changes is a sober date. So I try to stop telling these guys to put so much emphasis on a sober date and just understanding who you are and learning who you are, and like today, like you said, 8 years. I mean, that's one hell of a ride right there, bro.
Yeah.
We're good.
Oh, I was gonna see if you wanted to ask her what she needed, or if she needed anything from him, because we can edit it out. I see her keep tapping you.
That's her mom instincts kicking in.
No, she's fine.
Okay.
So, what was your rock bottom? When was enough enough?
I mean, I honestly had so many, but I mean, like even just looking at the last one, I used for 4 days and I used a substantial amount of drugs, just in 4 days after having 13 months clean. And it honestly was just I couldn't picture my life going down that road, yet once again, kind of how everything that was just said, like I was just like, after everything that I learned and after everything that I knew and the understanding that I had about, the program and recovery, like I knew that I would just be doing myself just such a huge disservice to just keep going in active addiction. And listen, as hard as it was, and believe me, it was tremendously difficult, but I picked myself back up, and I struggled really hard this last time. My first 3 or 4 months clean was very difficult. And by the grace of God, and the action that I put in, and the work that I put in, I was able to make it through. But it was, I ended up moving 600 miles away, and basically, in so many words, like just starting this new life where I knew nobody. And geographical change is never a cure, but like I think spiritually, that is what I needed at that exact moment in my life. And it worked out the way that it did, because I'm still here.
Yeah, I mean, people, places, things. Those are the things we talk about. And
Yeah.
I got sober and I moved 1,200 miles away, and I never looked back. And here we are, almost 5 years later. So it's definitely, again, yeah, you even say that you can use anywhere you go. It doesn't matter anywhere you go, but the desire is going to be different. Your connections are going to be less. So even though you can use, it makes it harder. But if you have that drive and that motivation, then it shouldn't matter where you are, whether you're in your hometown or whether you're 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
The cool thing I want to ask you, Colicchie, is like you said, the first 3 or 4 months were very tough. Which for myself and everyone, how that first 3 or 4 months, 6 months, things are just coming at you in every direction. So how did you like do meetings at the beginning and things like that? How did you stay connected, and what's your solution still to this day?
Yeah. So, and let me say, so this time was hard. Every other time I got clean, I always had a blast, especially in early recovery. I was on that pink cloud, and I was just so grateful to not wake up dope sick and to be alive. But like I said, this time really was just different. But yeah, so I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. I live with a good friend of mine down there, and I live with his wife and his little girl. And I was already going to meetings up here, but I was just so sick of the same atmosphere. I was so sick of seeing the same exact people. I was dealing with the end of a relation, or I was dealing with heartache, whatever you want to say. And that was like one of the main reasons that, I vacated the premises. And but no, so then when I went down there, I knew what I had to do. And I started going to meetings instantly when I got down there. And I started working. I was working in construction at the time. And I actually knew someone else down there that had a construction company. So I went to meetings. I worked in the day, and then at night I went to meeting. I don't think I did a 90 and 90, but I did it very close. I did a lot. And so I go to a meeting every night, and I would just sit there and I would just listen, because I'm not really that much of a talker, and I definitely wasn't then. But then I used to go to the beach and I used to just pray. And I would do that pretty much on a consistent basis, not every single night, but most nights. And this is also like a huge part of my story, because I can remember it like it was yesterday. But I would go to the beach, and there would be nights where my prayers felt like really artificial, but then there'd be nights where like I had tears in my eyes, because of just I would just think about my life and like how far I've came, and I was just in this position. I would like yell at the top of my lungs, like, why are so many of my friends, dead, God? Like, why am I alive? Like, why am I still here and so many of my friends aren't? Like, if I have a purpose, what is my purpose? Show me my purpose. And it is, and it's crazy, because like my life changed so much, like in the following like 9 months after that, between having her, and releasing drug addiction. And it's just so insane. And that's still what I do today. You know what I mean? I thank God that I have a fiance that believes in the program as much as me. And she sponsors women, and she's just a good, human being that practices principles in her life. And I still do all that. I still go to meetings. I still have a sponsor. I still do step work. I still do service. I still pray. I still read literature. I was reading right before we got on here. And my goal in life is to, is to be happy, of course, but it's also to be a positive, role model for my little girl. And it's to be a pillar in the community, and it's to be leading by example, and like I said, I know I do music, but I really am not much of a talker. I'm more of like a just watch how I live type person.
Yeah.
And
I was just saying that, thinking to myself, it's not even about what you say anymore, man. They're watching how you move. And that's the one thing I alliterate at work with the guys, because they're like, man, you're an inspiration, or this and that, or talking with you guys' music and what that means to you. And I said, hey, man, you got to walk the walk, but you got to, you know what I mean? You got to go by what you say. A lot of people, man, we're liars, and our words no good. So it doesn't even matter what you say anymore. I mean, people want to see your feet move. What's the action? I mean, you're being watched and you don't know it. So the thing is, like you said, man, it's all comforting to see, like you said, you pick up the big book and you show it after 8 years. I mean, that's what we all need to see and understand, that this is something that we got to do each and every day until the day that our higher power calls us home.
Yeah.
Moving on to the music aspect of it. Were you doing music when you were in active addiction?
I was not actually. Probably one of the first times that I attempted to get this, at like the age of 23, I just came home one day from outpatient, and it's weird. I just started like writing. I started writing poems in a notebook, and slowly after I started formulating them into songs. And I didn't really have anyone around me that like influenced me or anything like that. By this time, I already went through every genre of music. I didn't even really know if I even really liked rap. I mean, I listened to rap in high school and stuff, but like, like rock, classic rock, and like alternative and stuff, like those were my first loves. And but I started writing music, and it was crazy. And then, I picked this local studio out of the white pages at the time. And I called them up and made a session, and then I went there for the next 10 years. And it is kind of bizarre and insane when I look back that I don't know, no one really held my hand. No one even really said like, hey, you should do this, or no one Like seriously, there was no one in my life that was doing music or anything like that. I just felt comfort in it. So I stuck with it, and I started doing it pretty consistently. And I started recording like a song a week, a song every 2 weeks. And it was just, I don't know, it gave me purpose. It not only gave me purpose, I just liked the whole ritual of everything and how it made me feel. And especially the writing aspect of it. And I just continuously just kept doing it.
Yeah.
I was committed.
For ones that don't know, so how did you come up with Colicchie? What's this backstory?
Colicchie is my grandmother's maiden name. And I was young, probably 22, and I was on a beach in Florida with my sister and my ex at the time. And I was trying to think of a rap name. By this time, I have not recorded one song. I maybe started writing music. And everyone was coming out with all these crazy names like Little or, all these names. I didn't know what to say. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go with Colicchie. And my sister was like, I like it. And I was like, so that's what I'm going to do. And, fast forward, my grandmother died like 6 years ago now. And when I tell you that she is the most selfless human being that I've ever met in my entire life, like I really, truly mean that. So, it's kind of cool that that my name is after somebody that I view as being the most selfless individual to ever walk this earth, so I kind of would like to see like my music, like in so many words, like she lives through my music,
Yeah, you're
Awesome,
living
man.
that legacy living through, just continuing every day. Wow. That's
Does your daughter understand what you're doing? And you said your fiance helps people as well. Does she understand what you're doing with your life? Is it something that you talk to
Did
her
my
about?
Does my daughter understand what?
That you make music, and a lot of people know who her father is. And
Yeah, she does. She's gone on stage with me numerous times. We got to we had a couple shows in Utah actually in June. So I was fortunate enough to bring, the whole family, my fiance, my stepson, and my daughter. And yeah, and she got to go up and sing the song Daughter with me. And she loves
Oh man.
Yeah, she's the total opposite of me. She's less scared to me. I would never in a million years do what she does at the age that she does. And
can she hear us?
yeah, so
she can hear.
she kind of knows to a degree. I mean, she doesn't know everything, even about my past. And as I sit here and talk about this stuff, she doesn't really comprehend it right now, at least, but she will someday.
Does she pick up a microphone?
Not really. So she's in the video the song that we were supposed to shoot the video for today. She's in the intro. That's the first time I've ever had her on a song. So
Oh,
There you
that's
go.
cool.
Did you have fun going on stage with Daddy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
Were you nervous, or was it really fun?
I wasn't nervous.
You weren't nervous. Was there a lot of people?
She's a natural. It was
Mhm.
natural.
we have a show at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, November 11th. And she'll probably come on stage then and sing too.
Amazing, man. So cool that you are getting to enjoy living a sober life, Colicchie, man, with your daughter and your fiance and stepson, and do what you're doing out here and giving others hope. And like I was telling you earlier, man, these guys really relate to your music. And it's just amazing seeing the tears run down their face, them understanding that, hey, there is hope. And the coolest thing is having you on here with your daughter and you talking freely about your past with us is super cool.
What's what's up in the future? What's happening? Anything you want to announce or anything?
No, not really. I just kind of like I was saying earlier, I'm just staying busy with music and traveling. And I don't really travel a lot during winter, so I'm kind of looking forward to winter as far as basically just focusing on the writing and the recording of my music. But but yeah, that's pretty much it. I just try to work and you know, balance my time between my daughter, you know, and my family, and you know, and my recovery, and just trying to find that healthy balance. You know, it's you know, it seems impossible some days, but you know, I'm still here and making it work. So
Yeah. Where's for people that don't know, that maybe be listening for the first time, where can they find you at? All socials.
yeah, I mean, really anything. If you just basically Google my name, any platform from Spotify to YouTube. I know I have the most misspelled rap name of all time, but it's Colicchie. But I would say YouTube. I mean, I have probably 90% of everything I've done on there, so you can check me out there.
Yeah, we'll put the links in the description as well.
Okay.
Man, you got anything?
I was gonna ask, is your mom still using, or is she sober today?
No, she's sober. I mean, she's had moments where, you know, she's fallen short, you know, and relapse and stuff, but you know, even since like I was in high school, you know, she's had years clean, quite a few different times, but then she's also gone on some very destructive runs also.
Yeah.
But she's still here, she's still alive. Our relationship today is really good, and she's been well for quite some time now. So
It's awesome.
mhm.
That's awesome.
Well, I got the last question I got for you, buddy, is to the one to the one that's sick and suffering, the one that's gonna see this podcast, the one that's having self-doubt and is new to beginning recovery, man. Just throw a few words of wisdom and some knowledge and a little hope towards that person. What would you say to him?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell them to just hold on and you know, definitely get with somebody that they trust, that can guide them in the right direction. You know, I was just always, like I said, I would always, you know, I'd be stuck in some type of rut or depression or addiction or whatever. And the hardest thing in the world, you know, would be for me to reach out to somebody. You know, sometimes the most powerful thing that an addict can do is ask for help. And as difficult as it is, you know, we have to understand that our lives depend on it. You know, so you know, if you are struggling, whether you're using or whether you're clean, I would suggest getting with somebody that can you know, steer you in the right direction as far as you know, being able to change your life. But it's difficult.
Yeah. All things are possible. One day at a time,
True.
one moment at a time.
And I think, like you said before too, like not being ashamed of what you did.
Yeah.
You know, not keeping any secrets and stuff
Yeah.
like that about, you know, who you were and the things that you did during addiction. I think that's probably one of the most healing things to do, is to just come clean with it.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up tonight. Man, thank you for hopping on with us. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to just share your story and just be authentic and honest. And that's why we do this, to show other people it doesn't matter how much level of success you have in your life, whether it's you're the 9 to 5er, whether you do music full time, whether you're known, whether you're not. You know, recovery is possible, and that's why we do it, to show others that there is hope.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Everybody that's listening, go show Colicchie some love. Go give him a follow. Go give him a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Man, and again, man, thank you so much. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, we recover out loud for those that suffer in silence. Until next time, we love you guys.
Thank you.